MrPopZit here. The most common question I get asked is, what sunblock should I use? I've had 15 years to evaluate that question, and here's the answer. ISDIN. ISDIN. Link below in description. 10% off for the first purchase. Why is it the best? Medical grade, 100% mineral ultralight emulsion. Melts into your skin. Their scientists micronize zinc oxide so you literally can't see it on your skin. 50 SPF made for daily use on the face, décolletage, and hands. Coenzyme Q10 antioxidants and DNA repair zones that reduce inflammation and actually repair UV light damage. Available in tinted, non-tinted, and a powder. My wife loves the tinted so much she stopped using foundation. Only available online or in a doctor's office, and this link only works in the United States. Literally the best sunblock I've ever put on my skin. Thanks for popping by. Okay guys, MrPopZit here. We have seen a lot of steatocystoma multiplex. And this patient actually came from out of state. She saw us online, and that's happened multiple times. Sometimes there's just dermatologists or derm PAs or NPs in the area either don't know how to treat them or they don't want to. They're actually fairly easy most of the time. We just do a little bit of numbing here, and we're going to clear out these pockets. You can see pretty decent size on some of them, medium on some of the others, but she has seen some of my other videos, and she wanted to lessen the bumps on her torso, so we can definitely do that. Thanks to her for sharing. We're going to get her all prepped, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we have her numbed up here. We're going to pick some of the bigger ones, and we're just going to do a little poke. She shouldn't really feel that. And we're going to see, yeah, these are kind of the yellow, typical, we call them butter cysts. You can see that yellow, it looks like butter. And I always consult with my patients, what is important to them? Do they want the sac out for sure? Is pigment and scarring very important? Do they just want the bumps gone? And any skin of color at all that isn't Caucasian has risks of hyperpigmentation with trauma. So I really try to minimize, you know, these are pretty much flesh colored, as you can see. So we don't want to cause a bunch of brown on here, discoloration on her back. And we're gonna see if she does have some sacs here that come out easily. I don't want to make a wider cut, but if we can get a little bit of the wall of that sac out, it still is helpful. The rest is usually broken down by the body. And she did have a little sac there, but not bad. You can see it's just fibrous there. So as long as we get a little bit of that, we're helping for sure. If we can get a little bit. Any sting, you just let me know, okay? We shouldn't. There we go. There's a little, sometimes multi-focus, little pockets. We'll see. And that was a good size one. I come from every angle just to make sure. And I appreciate her sharing her procedure so others can learn and realize, hey, I have that condition and there's something that can be done. That's the biggest thing I've seen, really, especially with steatocystoma multiplex. So we're getting that sac out with minimal cutting, which is good. Small ones can be more difficult, but the big ones, usually we can work them out here. Nice. I'll get the scissors. Once we get that sac coming up, a little bit of spreading underneath, and they usually pop right out. It's on its way. Big chunk there. So those are interesting, very thin. Because they're so thin and brittle is another reason why they're not as prone to grow back as like an epidermal inclusion cyst. They can, but a lot of times when you're ripping them to pieces, it's kind of reabsorbed by the body. That was a pretty decent size one. That was one of her biggest. So. And she may have had 2 there as well, because there was a second pocket once I drained it. There we go. Good. And that's the rest of the sac there. She did great. You can see that. About the size, a little bit less than a centimeter. And then these heal together pretty good, just 2 millimeters there, and that'll heal in kind of just a little small spot, you'll see. Okay, come over here. I think this is more of kind of a white one, we'll see. No, it's yellow as well. Not as big. See if we can get it shallow there. Get a little bit of the fibrous part of the sac. Good. Her sacs aren't super deep, and they're pretty just kind of thin-walled, falling apart. Getting strands of those should help these not come back. We're not using any heat cautery, so she shouldn't really have a lot of pigment or anything. We're not getting super rough with those, so that's good. Over here now, kind of lean in there. It's a pretty good size one as well, I think. Oh, little pop there. That's what happens when these are under pressure sometimes. You can see the more fluid-like ones tend to pop more. Recently, I have missed being popped on multiple times. Just getting lucky, I guess. So I can see that sac is right there. It's not going to pop anymore, so don't worry. I have found the more liquid ones, the sacs come out a little easier. Just kind of roll that. As long as she's not experiencing pain, the Lido in there, superficial, has that for her. Just kind of roll those. It's almost like connective tissue holding it in there. Almost like, that's exactly what it is. These are interesting, you know, these form the base of that follicle in the pore there. Very fiber. You can kind of hear the strands there. That's good. That's a good one. Let's come down to this cluster here. You can move down there. Very good. More pasty one. Some white there. More paste. I tend to find more hairs in the pasty ones as well. This, I feel like there was some scar tissue there. Almost like a little follicular cyst possible too. And this one here. Very good. These aren't huge ones, but they can become bigger. That's why we're working on them. To me, it's always interesting to see the different presentations on these. From the skin level, they can look very similar, and then you get in there, and some of them are cysts, some are blackheads, some are fluid-filled, and some are just kind of like a paste. Some have lots of hair, some do not have any hair that you see. I'm going to trim that one. But you never know till you get in there. And her sacs are coming out decent, so we'll take the time to remove some of those. That one has a little scar tissue with it. Might have been inflamed at one time. So I need something a little sharper. Good. Let's see if she has many sacs in these. She's still great. There's not much on there. Good. Numbing's working well. You're not feeling anything, right? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Yeah, these ones weren't as big, just little pockets. There we go. Good. Last one here. Fibrous. It's common to come out in strands here. That's okay. Good. No big bleeders either, which is good. Sometimes that's what I'll use heat cautery to shrink that in, but we don't need to, and I don't want her to hyperpigment, so she'll heal. It'll just be little scabs that are 2 millimeters, which is no problem. About halfway there. Let's come over here to this one. Good. Pasty. Perfect. 2 pasty ones. Let me get this one too while we're going here. Very good. Sometimes I will just rough it up a little bit in there. Good. Now my finger's in the way sometimes, sorry. I'm just getting little strands here. Okay. Sometimes you can see as I start to kind of just take the strands of the sac at the top, a little bit more contents come out like that. And that's good. We're just kind of roughing up that sac. It should not reform. Getting bits and pieces of it out and the remainder of what's at the bottom of the sac. And if you need to stretch for a sec, you can. You just kind of move. Because then that makes you, when you're going forward like that, you're okay. Very good. So we just have this lower section. We got all these big ones up here. Pretty much everything that I could see when we pull the skin. Smaller ones. I go for all the big ones first on my first sessions because those are the ones that usually bother everybody the most. That's good. We'll come down to this cluster here. That's good. I'm going to kind of drain a couple of these and we'll come back for the sacs. Oh, it feels like scar, yeah. Not quite as much in there. See some of these hairs. See those? Doing great. We're moving right along here. I like to make the opening there and then we'll come back and grab the sac. Very good. You can see that difference in color. Sometimes it's light yellow. These are a lot of variation to them. It's pretty interesting. Good. I'll just get those last 2 here and then we'll go through on the sacs. This one looked like it was a little darker potentially. No, Sometimes it just means there's more hair in there. I do see some hairs there. Good. Okay. All right, let me see, this one is interesting. I think there might be a cluster of hairs in there. Now, I have seen in the comment section, people are just like, just open it up and get the whole sac. I've seen people say that. And, you know, scarring is just the utmost importance to me, at least, and usually the patient. If we end up with no bumps but a lot of bad scars, then we've kind of just had a trade-off, you know, something else they don't like. A little fibrous strand there. You kind of hear the hairs too. That one's pretty small. I don't think we're going to get much out of that. Yeah. Well, that numbing's great. She's doing really well. And a lot of people ask also, forceps with teeth. These are like the ones I use for eyelids. Very small, but just enough to grab that sac. You can use like the little tweezers too. I use both. Okay. And very good. That one has a little sac to it. The tornado technique. We just roll it, circles, loosens it, and then that bottom comes out. I don't know if anybody else has said the tornado technique. Maybe I coined that. Little sac right there too. I know sometimes it focuses on my hand, sorry. Came out in strands. A little bit left in there. People also ask, how many do we do? I usually do 20 to 30 most of the time. Doing 50 to 70 can be, you know, these feel like bee stings afterwards, a little tender. That can happen. So I don't want them, you know, in pain like for days afterwards. There's a fatigue that happens, and doing 30 or 40 shots, we can only put in so much lidocaine as well. So we are limited with local lido. If any are bleeding a little, we'll put some Band-Aids on for it too. But our main goal was to reduce bumps, and there's a little lido in there, but I think we did a great job today. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. Yeah, we did about 21 there. Most of the others that I see are pretty small ones. But we're going to see her a couple times this week, and each time we're going to go for the biggest in any given area. And let me get, there's one more right there. Seeing that one the whole time, I was like, that shouldn't stay. There you go. Little hair. Good. You can hear it almost sounds like crinkling hairs together. It's that sound of if you do that, it's kind of fibrous, and there are hairs in there too. It's an interesting sound though, as you kind of take out what you can of the sac. I don't know if that comes across on the video, but okay. We did 22 or 23 of these big ones she had. And we'll let her heal, and then we're gonna come back. I'm gonna see how much pigment she gets from this too. Because she traveled, normally I do test spots and do a cluster. Make sure she doesn't hyperpigment. We don't have that luxury because she's from out of state. So we're gonna do most of the big ones, and as long as we go in with minimal cut, minimal trauma, no heat cautery, she should have very minimal pigmentation. Some people are sensitive, but that even if she gets a little, it'll go away. You can see just from acne, sometimes we'll get little pigment spots, but they usually heal pretty quick for her. So we can come up here. Okay, I just wanted to thank her for sharing. That was an interesting case. Each one, they're always different. Different consistency. Sacs come out easy sometimes. Some don't have much of a sac at all, or it's broken down already. And some it just comes out in bits and pieces. Every bit helps. So, it's hard for people to say that's guaranteed going to regrow or come back. In time, you'll tell. I do have some patients that refill quickly, and some that a year and a half, 2 years out have not refilled at all, and I didn't remove any sac. So it's everything in between. So thanks again, and thanks to her for popping by.